I think, you have your skills and then you have your personal beliefs, right? And if they're not aligned, either one of them can hold you back, right? Like, if you really believe that you're the greatest of all time and you have all this confidence in yourself, like, that's awesome. But if you haven't actually developed the skills to back that up, that's going to hold you at the level of your skill set.
It's that time of the year, the #1 door-to-door conference in the world. Door-to-Door Con 8, January 7th through the 9th. Now, we have done this now 8 years, and we have over 60 amazing workshop and panel speakers where we dive into leadership, recruiting, investments, sales skills, different industries from pest workshops to solar workshops to retail. And we have found people leaving transformative. This year is going to be extra special. We're adding an Owner's Day for free on the 7th. So come to Salt Lake City, Utah, get your ticket, come celebrate this amazing industry that we live in, and come as a team, learn as a team, and leave as a tribe. Don't hesitate, don't wait, don't be like, oh, I'll get it later. Click the link below. What's up, guys? Sam Taggart here with the D2D podcast. And guys, I have a treat for you today. This is a long time coming. I had him on my manifestation list of people to meet, and now we're here in person. And I intentionally do this, guys. I door-to-door con, I intentionally am selfish with my budget. I go, who can I pay to be my friend to come to this? So last year we had Sean White. I negotiated a snowboarding day with him to part of the contract. I get creative with idols that I have, and I'm like, wait, why don't I hire them? And then I get in proximity, and there's the life hack right there. So if you have the opportunity to do so, you get to do cool shit like this. Congrats. So I get to bring on a keynote speaker at Door-to-Door Con, a YouTube phenomenon, probably the greatest freestyle rapper I've ever heard, Mr. Harry Mack. Welcome to the D2D podcast, man. Hey. Thanks for the time, man.
Nah, thanks for having me, man. What an awesome intro. I appreciate all the kind words, man. I'm excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm glad that because if we were to call I don't know, be some other rapper, 50 Cent, he's probably not as adept to podcasting and these types of interviews, and it probably wouldn't be as intricate. But the fact that you have a show, the flow that you can rap on anything essentially is going to make this quite interesting. So I'm excited. And you're actually sitting in your studio. Is that are we ready to play the piano, or is this just where you normally do the? Does that work?
It does work, but it's a MIDI controller, so it doesn't have its own sounds. It's not wired into.
Oh, it needs to be connected to your laptop.
Exactly.
Fun fact: 2 years ago at Door-to-Door Con, I used Ableton and wrote my own track to then rap over on my speech. And so I'm following you. My keynote goes right after you. So a little plug. I'm prepping a rap, not freestyle, but I will rap right after you. So I was like, as long as you set me up, I'm just telling everybody that's listening right now, nowhere nearly as cool, not as dope. It's I set the bar so low. I don't know.
That's awesome though, man. I didn't know you produced in Ableton. I use Ableton as well. That's my DAW of choice. So we have that in common, man.
I love that. No, I've played music. So this is why. So take Sean White. I snowboarded since I grew up in Park City. I grew up that on the mountain. I grew up playing music. I play guitar, the piano, and then I started learning Ableton. Sort of I write music. I love producing. I'll freestyle, but not nearly as close. But I just think it's fun. I love the creative art. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the whole rap game. Was that a childhood thing, or is that a more recent thing?
No, definitely, man. It was a childhood thing. I've been rapping since I was 10 years old. I'm 34 now.
Dude, we're both 34. So Eminem, we grew up with 8 Mile, bro. Me, you, and Eminem. He was the shit. Okay, cool. At least we wore the FUBUs and the big sweatpants in middle school. We're in the same generation.
What? I don't think I was wearing that, the sweatsuit vibe, but yeah, I was wearing something goofy for sure, man. I was definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
I was bad at buying my own clothes, so I would always either buy it way too big, or the pants would be too short, or it was Gen
insanity, X, dude. You go to the Gen X and get the tall T phase.
Yeah, exactly. But nah, man, it was my first exposure to freestyling was 106 in Park, Freestyle Fridays. which they did on BET. And, it's like a freestyle battle, a weekly battle. There was this incredible MC named Jin who won week after week after week. And that culminated in him signing a deal with Rough Rider Records. And he's still active now. He's an amazing MC, freestyler, and writer. And it was like me and my best friends at the time, 10, 11 years old, just watching these improvised freestyle battles, just getting our minds blown. Like, how is this even possible that they're going up on this stage without anything prepared and they're able to pull together these brilliant lyrics in real time right in front of us, And it was just the most amazing thing. No pyrotechnics, no big explosions or special effects, nothing like that. Just very raw, just a beat being played from the turntables and two MCs going back and forth, seeing who could be wittier and more clever in the moment. And we were like, man, that's amazing. We got to try to figure out how to do some of that on our own.
So do you feel like this freestyle is a skill that was developed and anybody could technically learn how to be that quick? Or were you always super quick-witted right off the dome?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, because all you would have to do is go back and listen to my first freestyles to hear that I have developed this craft over time. My first freestyles were not good. Fortunately, they weren't recorded, so we're not actually able to go back and listen to them.
We're not playing those at Door to Door Con.
I wish I could bring those, man. That would be crazy. But no, they weren't recorded. They dissipated into the universe as soon as I spoke them into the air. But they weren't good. They weren't anything special. I don't think if you heard my first freestyles, anybody would say, "Oh, this guy's got it. I bet he'll make a career out of that." So it's something that I built up and practiced over time. That being said, I've always had a super strong connection to music. Like when I was a baby, I would hear these classic blues recordings. That's what I was really into when I was a little baby, was like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and these old school like blues guitarists and singers. And I would hear them come on the radio and start shaking and stuff. I would crawl to the speaker. My parents tell me I used to like play rhythms on the high chair tray. I was always drumming. So in some sense, I feel like I was born a musician, if that makes sense. Like for whatever reason, the way my mind is oriented and set up, and it probably has something to do with my DNA and my the way that my brain is oriented and things that I'm not an expert in at all. But for whatever reason, music has always been the coolest thing to me. So I think that part of it is something I was born with, that affinity for music. But the actual skill of being able to improvise lyrics in real time and do it at a professional level is something that I definitely practiced and developed over time.
So when you and I want to correlate this because obviously a bunch of people listen to this, they're either sales reps or they're business owners or they're recruiters. And, you're probably like, I got asked to speak at a door-to-door convention. I'm a rapper, and it's a keynote. We're not and the reason I wanted to correlate this, and just so every audience listening and coming to door-to-door and you even, because this is the first time we've met, you're like, why is this synergy? Because I'm like, guys, what he just said is it's a skill where he's practiced over time, where it can riff just like this. And it's communication. He's communicating to a beat. He's communicating to a message. He's seeing how he can be wittier. He can, freestyle and create a rhythm. And that's the same as selling. Selling is a rhythm. It's a freestyle. And so many people are like, I need to memorize the script. I'm like, yeah, that's level 1 of selling. Level 10 of selling is what he's doing, the freestyle, where it just comes so naturally. It's like, give me a beat, give me a product, and I'll freaking slang. Doesn't matter because it's the same. There's got to be kind of almost a method behind freestyle that we're not seeing that has been practiced. So talk to us kind of a lot of us to the naked eye, we're like, wow, how does he do that? And it's like, no, there's constructs in which you've probably systematized this a little bit. So talk to us a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There are techniques involved in what I do as a freestyler. I treat it the same way as learning any other instrument. And you'll relate to this, because I just learned that you yourself have been a musician for most of your life. I treat learning how to freestyle the same way you might treat learning how to play the drums behind me. I'm a drummer. I've been playing drums for as long as I've been rapping. My first instrument was the violin. I played that from age 7 to 14. And so anybody who's ever tried to learn a musical instrument knows that there are different techniques that you learn and practice and develop. And freestyling is no different. I'll give you one quick example that I think that people will be able to understand. But I utilize this technique that I call setup punchline. So the way that works is, if I'm freestyling live, I'm looking for a target word. So right now I can see you're wearing a black baseball cap, right? That might become my target. And so I see that black baseball cap, and when I first started freestyling, I would just say it reactively, right? Before I had really developed this technique of setup punchline. So I might see you and I'd say, yo, my dude's in the black baseball cap and I'm doing a rap.
And then you're like, where do you go with that? Yeah.
Exactly. And you just, hopefully you can think of a word that rhymes with cap in time and find some way to work it in and kind of make it make some amount of sense. And there's varying degrees of success there. Sometimes you get lucky and it works out perfectly. Other times you can't come up with a rhyming word in time and it all kind of falls apart. But when I started studying like the really great freestylers that came before me, I noticed that a lot of times they would take that target, that black baseball cap, and they would save it and they would put it a little bit later. And so they would quickly work backwards to rhyme with baseball cap in advance. And if you watch my videos of me freestyling, you'll see me doing this all the time.
I've already noticed that. I'm like, he knows where he's leading in because he's like, give me 3 words.
Yes.
Okay, so go with the baseball cap. Let's see you play that game.
So it'd be like, every time I rhyme, you know I'm gonna snap. Shouts my man in the black baseball cap. I get busy when I come off top with the vocals. He be in the couch lamping in the red polo. Every time I rhyme, I connect like Comcast. I'm so blessed to be here on your podcast. It feels like we inside the same room, but really it's virtual. We connected through Zoom.
Boom! So you did the setup and like for the polo, and you said, I got to think of a word that's going to rhyme with polo instead of be like, you're in a red polo, don't go solo. You know, then you're like backtracking like, oh shit. Like, I love that. Well, this is the same thing as selling. Like the thing is like people don't realize you're building a crescendo of like the emotional highs when I need to close. But if I'm trying to like do that right at the beginning, it's like, then you don't got no juice to like get them to do things. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's entertainment. It's a storytelling. It's movies. It's, you know, it's like if you just told them the punchline, it's like, yeah, he's going to get the girl. At the beginning of the movie, you're like, we're all assuming this, but it's this like, wait, you kind of bump shoulders with her. I bet it's her. You know, maybe it isn't. Ah, no, it isn't. No, it is. You know, it's this game of like keeping somebody engaged. And I think that's communication. I think people don't realize there's a higher level of approaching communication. I love that. So let me ask you this, like, and I think this is where you use this word professional freestyle. At what point in your life did you decide I'm going to go make real money doing this? Because there's this game of like side hustle. This is a hobby. This is fun. And the difference. So let's take it this concept, amateur versus professional. What's the difference to you?
Well, you know, it's a fantastic question. So I'm a big fan of this book called The War of Art. Are you familiar with this book by Stephen Pressfield?
Yes.
It's great.
Or the Art of War or the War of Art?
The War of Art. So it's a flip.
Oh, I know the Art of War, not the War of Art.
Yeah, both classics in their own right. The Art of War by Sun Tzu is like a
that's what I was like. That was a class. I don't know the War of Art.
The War of Art is by this author, Stephen Pressfield, and it's a really short book. You could read it in one afternoon. But his argument is that for creatives especially, and really for everybody, that you go pro the day that you decide that you're going to show up at the same time every day and do your art and do your craft. That's what makes somebody a professional as opposed to an amateur. The amateur creates when they feel inspired. The professional creates every day no matter what. So I think that there's a lot of truth in that one can, and that's really empowering too, because that means you can go pro before you ever get paid to do something, right? So it's really, in his argument, it's about deciding that you're going to show up and do your job every day, no matter how you feel, just like all the other professionals in the world. So I think there's some truth to that. But to answer your question more directly in terms of when I started doing this as my actual career, it happened gradually. You know, it was back in 2016, at the end of 2016, that I actually posted my first ever freestyle video on YouTube. And up to that point, I had been basically scraping by playing jazz gigs as a drummer, you know, and playing little bar gigs for $50 here, $75 there, barely making the rent, you know, trying to figure it out, teaching drum lessons, still doing music full time, but just barely scraping by. And I was incredibly passionate about hip hop and freestyling for that whole time. But, you know, I was struggling with some self-esteem stuff. I couldn't really envision myself making it full time as a rapper, as an MC. You know, it just felt too far-fetched. I lacked the personal belief at that point in time that I could really go forward and do it. And luckily in 2016 in December, my friend who's a producer made a beat and just asked if I would do him the favor of freestyling over his beat while driving down Sunset Boulevard so he could film it and post it on his YouTube channel to promote his music. It wasn't even about me, it was about him. And I was happy to do him that favor. I didn't think anything of it. And it just so happened that when he posted that video a week later, it was upvoted to #1 on Reddit videos and got 100,000 views overnight. And I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, what is going on right now? I had never experienced anything like that. I didn't even have my own YouTube channel. I wasn't like big on social media or anything like that. I was just playing my gigs as a jazz drummer, trying to, make my rent. And all of a sudden, this freestyle that I did for my friend's video was getting all this attention, and there was so much energy behind it. And that was a really important moment for me, man. It was like I looked in the mirror and I was like, yo, stop being scared. Stop being scared. Look at the power of this. This is just one freestyle you did as a favor to a friend. It took 20 minutes, I didn't even think about it. What would happen if I doubled down? Like, what would happen if I gave everything I have to this, And I've loved it so much my whole life. What could happen if I stopped being afraid to be that guy? And so the next day I started my own YouTube channel and started posting my own videos and figuring out how to make little clips and post them on Instagram. And I just started trying to grow my own thing. And it was about actually just 3 months later, I posted the first viral video on my own channel, which was me freestyling in Venice Beach. And that video went really crazy and started this whole momentum sort of for me to be able to have all these opportunities and build my brand as Harry Mack and become sort of known to the world.
Man, that's inspiring. And I think like people don't ever really consciously see that like opportunity. It's like you saw the door open, and like the piece that I think people overheard or might have over listened. Is that even a word? Over. I'm like, what I'm trying to say? You're like good with words. I suck at this. Is the very next day he started a YouTube channel. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna sit on this for like 6 years and like maybe I'll come back to this and like I'm afraid to. It was this element of like, F the fear, let's go. You know what I mean? Like send it. Like the door opened and he said, I'm gonna take it. And it was 100,000 views. And it's like, what he just felt was like this little bit of confidence of like, maybe there's somebody that actually likes what I do. Like maybe there's somebody that could listen to this. And the very next day, not like, I think that's a piece that people might've overheard. Is that the word? Misheard? Pushed over? Yeah, brushed over when listening to this. So I wanted to point that out. Brushed over. Man, I need help talking. So thanks, Harry.
You're killing it. You're killing it. But I think, you know what? I appreciate it. And it's true. I think, you have your skills and then you have your personal beliefs, right? And if they're not aligned, either one of them can hold you back, right? Like if you really believe that you're the greatest of all time and you have all this confidence in yourself, like that's awesome. But if you haven't actually developed the skills to back that up, that's going to hold you at the level of your skill set, right?
Yes.
And then the inverse of that is what I had. It's like I've been freestyling passionately with my whole heart since I was 10 years old. Here I am in 2016. I'm 26 years old, right? And my skills are highly developed. Like all of my close friends and family members knew I had this crazy freestyle ability. Everybody I went to college with was like, dude, do something with that. But my personal beliefs were way down here. It was like, I'm not a rapper. This isn't for me. I can't actually make any money doing this. This isn't realistic. This isn't what my college degree says I'm supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. And so because my personal beliefs were so low, it didn't matter that my skills were right here. It was holding me right at this lower level. And then it was like all of a sudden, with that video with my friend, that was what I needed to like break through on the personal belief side. And so it had this appearance online, almost like, yo, this dude came out of nowhere with this crazy freestyle ability. Really, it's like I'd been developing the skill for more than 20 years. It was just I had to actually convince myself that it was for me, Well,
what's crazy is in the parallel of even business entrepreneur, saleship. Like I look at my 8-year-old son, and it's like I know he is bound to be a successful business owner. Like he got on the phone and sold $6,900 of tickets to Door-to-Door Con in 24 hours. It's like he beat my entire sales team combined, like by himself at 8. I'm like, dude, this guy's a savage. He wore a suit to church or to school, and he's just like, yo, and like He's hustling all the time. And I'm like, dude, you suck at school. I already know, like, there's a common trend here. You aren't going to be a, bookworm. Like, we already know this, but like, he'll be in business. But it's like, I don't know at what point in time he'll find that niche or that, like, call it little spark, like that break you had. Is that when he's 30? Is that when he's 18? I had it when I was like literally 18. I'd go to sell alarm systems in Dallas, Texas, and boom, I sold 5 my first day. And I'm like, dude, I'm the shit. Like, I was like, everybody's like, what the heck? And it, like, just day one, I had some struggles getting to that point, but like, I just knew in my heart, like, I was like, oh, I'm good at selling. Like, and so I just kept pursuing it, but people didn't realize I was selling since I was 7. You were rapping since you were 10. Like, you had developed, 20 or what is that? 18 years of development of the skill set to actually then have the breakthrough that then created the, like, global fame and success, where I pay you tens of thousands of dollars to come out and hang, so it's like, but here's the cool part is, I think anybody that's willing to put the time and energy into the skill set, like you just said, like, should never give themselves, like, I don't think they should give up on that. Like, dude, like, you don't know when that door is going to open up. And I think many times people never put in, like, it's like hammering the chisel. It's like maybe on the 99th hit is finally when the crack breaks. You know what I mean? So I have a kind of an interesting question. This one's different. Yeah. Obviously you're a freestyle rapper, but like, energetically, I can tell that you have a bigger mission, bigger purpose. Like, you portray this element of like, yeah, rapping is a vehicle too. What is something that you're passionate about, or kind of the mission you're on right now? It seems like you have something brewing.
Man, great question. I think for me, like, one of the beautiful things that I've kind of discovered through being on this journey, making this, freestyle rap content, like, I've always known that improvisational music in particular has this incredible power, to spread joy. And I've been able to really, like, I guess, affirm that belief that I've always had through this journey that I've been on. I've seen firsthand, time and time again, the power of an off-top, improvised freestyle rhyme to spread joy to other human beings. It's really amazing. Like, in our videos early on, I realized when I'm like out in the streets doing, we call it guerrilla bars, right? Where I'm rapping for strangers in public and they'll throw me words, or I'll rap about their outfits and I create a rhyme right there in front of them. We realized early on that it was more important to film their reaction to what I was doing than it was to even film me rapping, right? Like, filming me rapping is secondary. The most important thing is to film their reaction, because so often, it's these big smiles, or it's these jaw drops, or it's these moments of awe. And I think really it's these moments of being a part of something, right? Like, we're all just walking around the world, going through our lives. We want to feel seen and heard in some way. And, when I'm incorporating other people into my freestyle, it's this really cool collaborative thing where they become a part of the rhyme. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say, like, in general, the bigger mission is to spread joy to as many people as I can. It's cool to have a skill, and I'm really proud of, like, my ability as a freestyler, and I'm always trying to learn and get better. But to me, like, what's the point of having the skill if I'm not using it for good? And so for me, like, if I can use my freestyling to spread joy to people around the world, if I can use freestyling as sort of an example of, like, hey, this is what it looks like to really hear somebody, to really see somebody. So much of what I do is listening to other people, listening to their words or their stories, or observing who they are and finding a way to incorporate them into my rhyme. And so I think that's probably the bigger vision for me, using the art to spread joy.
Well, I think there's something there, though. Like, what people also brush over when you just said this is, I think God or the universe or whatever will open up more doors knowing that you're going to use those talents to do good. Does that make sense? And I think the short-lived careers, the short-lived job sprints, the short-lived abundance comes from this misintention to not really make it about them. Like, I think the reality is these get super short-lived when your skill set's always about my gain, me. And I think that's like where maybe consciously or unconsciously what's perpetuated your success is that pureness of like, it's about them. Like I'm listening, I'm hearing what they need, I'm paying attention. And like, if I were to liken that to sales, it's like, okay, look at this. Like you're paying attention to, they have kids. Now, how do you coordinate the product to pay attention to how they're going to use it with their kids? And when you notice that they have something on the wall of like, oh, tell me about Hawaii. And they're like, oh my gosh, Hawaii this. And you just listen to them for 5 minutes, rant about Hawaii. You didn't have to say anything. They just love you now because they got to tell you their story about Hawaii that they don't ever get to tell anybody. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, dude. It's so crazy how similar that is to what I do. It's really crazy. And you mentioned earlier, like how, you know, people are like, oh, I got to memorize the script, and they get stressed out about the script. And you're like, no, the script needs to be so absorbed that you don't even think about the script, you know, so you can look up at this higher level and notice these other things. That's exactly how I think about the skills and techniques that go into freestyling. Like that whole setup punchline thing I was explaining earlier, and there are a bunch of other techniques as well. I don't ever want to be thinking about that when I'm doing the performance. I want to have it so well practiced and so well ingrained that it's like walking, right? You don't think to yourself, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. You can walk completely in the background. And so that's how I want all of those techniques to feel. And then that allows me to do everything you just mentioned. Like notice that there are kids around. Okay, maybe I don't swear or say anything, you know, that would be inappropriate to a kid in this freestyle, because that's going to isolate this family that's watching me right now. And I want them to enjoy it. Or like you mentioned, noticing the picture of Hawaii. It's like, oh, let me notice that somebody has a shirt from a place they went on vacation, or maybe it's their hometown. Now I can incorporate that. Right? So it's like similar to what you do in sales, where it's like the technical information and the script and the actual, like how much what your actual ask is so second nature that you can start operating on that higher level and like genuinely connecting with people, right? Which makes such a difference.
Love that. So let's talk about like the mess ups for a second. Cause like, I think the Instagram, you see all like these perfect, like never even skip a beat. There's no even like stutter words in half of your stuff. I'm like, geez, he doesn't even use filler words with half freestyle guys are doing. And, you know, I think in sales or in freestyle, like obviously there's the highlight reel, but like there are probably times where it's like, man, that didn't land like I thought, or I need to backpedal, or I covered up a mess up that you would have never even consciously seen. So I like know how to keep the thing moving, even though this, like, I got stuck. Does that ever happen? Like walk me through kind of how you get back into flow. How do you overcome like certain, like, you know, I'm off rhythm, or I'm lost in this one.
Yeah, man, totally. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, but I've just gotten really good at hiding my mistakes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, like I might have an idea in my mind of a certain lyric that I'm trying to execute, or a certain reference that I'm trying to make when I'm freestyling. But, you know, this is all happening in real time, right? It's improv. Sometimes the mouth gets caught up, you know, on the words, or like you say, I might stutter, stammer, mispronounce something. It doesn't quite come out right. And in that moment, I just have to be so willing to pivot and to, you know, make the mistake make sense, if you will, you know. And there are all these different things that we can do as musicians, and I think as human beings, really, right, to turn the mistake into something that actually adds on in a clever way, and sort of recontextualize the mistake to be something interesting. You know, I have freestyles where I'll mispronounce the name of a city or something when I point it out, and I can tell by their reaction, like, I probably said it wrong. So then I'll start rapping about that. Like, yo, back on the beat, I'm a bounce. My bad, I think I mispronounced. And then they'll nod, and I'll say, I see them nodding, so it must be true. How is it pronounced? I want to hear it from you. And then they'll say the word, right? And then I grab that word right in that moment and say, thank you so much. And then I say it correctly. And so it's like I'm rapping my way out of the mistake, you know, and making it like, often that'll be the most memorable part of the whole performance. So I think, you know, that's one of the most important skills of being an improviser in music and in life, is knowing how, first of all, accept that the mistakes are going to happen. And then when the mistakes do happen, don't dwell on the mistake. You know, you can't go back and fix it. It's already occurred. So then at that point, what's the best step forward? You know, like what's the best next step? Maybe it's making light of the mistake, or maybe it's completely ignoring the mistake and acting like it never happened and just continuing on your path. But what you don't have time to do is stay thinking about the mistake, because all that's going to do is ensure that you make another mistake.
Yes. Oh, so good. This is so good. Guys, if you're listening right now, come to Door2DoorCon and get to meet Harry and go see him live. Like, this is like why I brought Harry, is not just a rap, but also to bring some wisdom. Like, there's so much correlation. So I took a lot of improv classes and, very similar probably, but it's more on the acting side of things. And this is something I guess I've never really shared, but I liked it. Like, I was like, man, this is a game. This is fun. This is like, I feel like I'm like in this creative flow, right? And they taught a principle kind of like that I almost like never even thought about when it comes to objections or making mistakes or your pitch or whatever you are doing, is they would say it was like, I think the technique was called like, never say no, or always yes and. And it's like, if I came to you in an improv, that's what it's called, yes and? So if I approached Harry and I was like, oh, Steve, I can see that you're really baking something really nice right now. He wouldn't be like, I'm not baking, I'm stirring my tar. It's like, oh shoot, because that ends the scene, right? He'd have to say, of course I'm baking this amazing, and he would play on top of what I gave him, right? That's the technique. And I think like in what he just said similarly is, I think an objection that a customer might give you, it's like, hey, I'm not interested. It's like, how do you play on top of that technique? It's like, thank you for giving that. And then how do I move into that as now my next phase of my rap or my next phase of my script? Or, you can redirect them like he did. He's like, I used my mistake into that was the highlight of the show, to where they didn't even know that it was a mistake. Like, does that make sense? Like, it didn't even look like the mistakes. So I love that.
Oh, no, man, that you're spot on. And it's so true. It's often, I find that in what I do, and maybe you relate to this too, it's like, it's often the mistake that becomes the best part. So much so that people sometimes think my mistakes are intentional. Like, I'll often forget one of the words and then I'll have to ask the person what the word was, and then they'll say it. And usually I grab it back and start rapping with this heightened intensity. It's almost like it's all happening in real time. It's not necessarily conscious, but it's like I'm trying to compensate for having made the mistake of forgetting the word, right? It's like, well, I better really go crazy with this word right now. And it gets hyper lyrical and I do everything I can and I flip the word inside out and play with it as much as I can. And people often are like, I think he does that on purpose. Like, he pretends to forget the word. I really don't do it on purpose, but it just goes to show that, sometimes what is what seemingly a mistake to you in the moment is going to become the most memorable thing. And like you with sales, I imagine it's like when somebody gives you a refusal, or they say that, nah, I'm not interested, and they give their reason why. If you know how to attack that exact reason, right, and you know how to come back from that really strong and reframe things and position them in a way where you're able to help that person realize that, oh, they really do want what you have to offer them, that can be the most important part of the whole conversation, I would imagine.
Love that. So 2-3 more questions, and we gotta wrap up. Yeah. So first, you're obviously coming to a door-to-door convention. This is Door-to-Door Podcast. And my question is like, what doors have you kind of had to knock on or been afraid to knock on, or you've knocked and it got a door opened in your career since 2016 and you took this like on? Has there been like a door that you were scared to knock and you knocked it and it opened up into something new? Like what do you do in door to door today, even though you don't like go sell like a service in a residential neighborhood, but you still knock, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. Man, I love that question. I mean, I think it's funny because in so many ways, I feel like I'm going door to door when I'm out there filming my Gorilla Bars content,
Yes.
Because I'm walking up to strangers on the street. And to be honest with you, even just building up the courage to decide like, hey, I want to go do that. I want to go film myself approaching strangers, interrupting their day, and asking if I can do a freestyle for them. That required me to kind of go knock on the door.
Yeah, that's its own door of itself. And do you ever get people that are like, no, I'm busy right now, don't want to deal with this? Like,
of course, man. Absolutely. Yeah. All the time. There's a lot of rejection out there, which you know very well, I'm sure. And everybody listening to this knows very well. But, to me, that's kind of the fun of the game. I like that aspect of it. I get nervous a little bit before we start the shoot, even now, because I do feel very exposed when I'm out there doing what I do. But, once we kind of get on a roll and once the juices start flowing, it really does become this sort of flow state thing where the rejection is just part of it, and the fun of the game is the challenge of approaching people the right way or finding the right energy to come in with that's going to make everybody feel comfortable and allow everybody to have a good time. So
love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question is, at Door to Door Con, what can the people expect from you, kind of in this keynote-y, rappy thing? What are you bringing?
Man, first of all, I'm going to bring the craziest off-top improvised freestyle rhymes that hopefully anybody in that room has ever heard. So you can expect that. And nothing will be pre-written, pre-memorized, or pre-planned in any way, shape, or form. It's all going to be conjured in the moment with the assistance of the audience. So to anybody that's going to be there during my performance, you all will be my collaborators in the creative process. I'll be using your words, your topics, your suggestions, and even your outfits and everything that I can see in my visual sphere to inspire the freestyle rhyme. So there's that. And but I would say with me, one of the things that I love about freestyling that also crosses over into the speaking aspect of what we're going to do in the conversation that we're going to have. I love that freestyling and improvising requires me to be honest, and it requires me to be my full self and commit to who I really am and commit to my truth in the moment. That's what I love most about improvising. There's no time for me to revise it or so-called perfect it, or clean it up, or I don't know if I really want to share that aspect of myself. Maybe I'll hold that back, or I don't know if I really want to say this way. Maybe I'll tweak it. Maybe I'll adjust it. Maybe this is really the story I want to tell. There's no time for any of that when I'm improvising. So it really is, I just have to open my heart and open my mind and commit to the ideas that come to me organically in the moment. And so there's this really kind of sacred honesty to improvised music and especially freestyle rapping. And so I'm going to bring that. And I also plan to bring that in the conversation that we have, a real authentic honesty. And I think, that's something we really, really need.
I'm excited. No, I'm excited. Guys, again, if you want, get your tickets today. They're on sale. We're selling quick. And we're approaching the date, January 8th and 9th, Salt Lake City, Utah. Come join us at the Salt Palace. It's going to be off the hook. 50 amazing speakers. Harry Mack, Mike Posner, Erwin McManus, some awesome people. Colin O'Brady, Charlie Rocket, and so many other amazing workshops. And, I guess the last question, I want to save this. What has been your favorite thing to rap about? I know this is a weird off the top, but I'm assuming you have an arsenal of premeditated, almost like rhythms and word clusters that kind of fit together that can be repeated. But I'm sure there's topic that you're like, dude, I love just riffing on this. I could riff on this for days.
Wow. Man, I love it. So much of my material, if I'm honest, is what I call battle rhymes, right? So it's me talking about how I'm dope on the mic and I'm crushing these other MCs and, which is very obviously a big part of the language of hip hop, right? Hip hop has always had that competitive spirit. It was born from the battle, B-boy battles back in the day, cats breakdancing, going toe to toe, and then eventually DJ battles and eventually rap battles, right? And so I have a lot of that kind of braggadocious spirit in what I do, which I think is healthy and fun. But the topics that I really love to rap about, to be honest with you, it's a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. I often end up rapping about fear and overcoming fear. You know what I mean? Overcoming insecurity, getting your beliefs where they need to be so that your skills can really shine. I love talking about that. I love talking about practice and craft and being devoted to, the skill set and putting those years of work in and studying the greats and learning from the masters in whatever field you're in, whether it's freestyle rap or door-to-door sales, learning as much as you can to become great. Those are kind of the themes that sort of naturally rise to the top when I'm doing my freestyles. For whatever reason. And
it lives within you. It's part of your soul. It's in your construct. So that's beautiful, and some rappers, they just want to rap about hookers and blow. That's their thing. It's that's why I'm I like your energy. It's uplifting. It's very I want people to be better humans and so, give them joy. So I really do appreciate you and how you show up for the world. And I know you've inspired a lot of joy across millions of lives, and I'm excited to meet you in person, man. And thank you so much for your time. And we'll be in touch, man. We'll see you in January, brother.
Sounds good. I can't wait for it, man. Thanks so much for having me. And we're going to have a lot of fun.